Every night, just as the world quiets down, that's when the noise in our heads can get overwhelmingly loud. We've all been there, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, trapped in a loop of endless thoughts about what we did wrong today and what tomorrow might bring. It's exhausting, isn't it? Well, you're not alone in this mental marathon. Overthinking is like having an itch you can't scratch, and it can steal away both your night's sleep and your daytime peace. But what if I told you that there's a way to quiet those noisy thoughts? Today we dive deep into the wisdom of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that's as practical today as it was thousands of years ago. This isn't just about historical concepts, it's about real tools that can help us lead a calmer, more focused life. So if you're tired of your mind spinning out of control, stick with me. Let's explore how these age-old strategies can bring us peace and clarity in our chaotic world. If you appreciate what we're doing here and want to keep up with more insights like these, do me a simple free favor and hit that subscribe button. And trust me, you won't want to skip any part of this video. Every moment is packed with value to help you quiet the noise in your mind. Let's get started. Lesson 1. Action over analysis. You know those moments when you're just sitting there, your mind racing with a million what-ifs and maybes, and before you know it, hours have slipped by and you've gotten absolutely nowhere. That's what we're tackling here. Stoicism teaches us a powerful antidote to this paralysis by overanalysis, prioritizing action over endless thought. Think about the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius, who said, "The secret of all victory lies in the organization of the non-obvious." Marcus wasn't just about thinking things through, he was about doing things that make a real impact. So how do we apply this? It starts with recognizing that action inherently moves us forward, whereas overthinking often spirals us into stagnation. Have you ever noticed that when you finally decide to take even a small step forward, it's like a weight lifts off your shoulders? That's because action is liberating. It breaks the chains of procrastination and doubt. Here's a personal story for you. I once had this idea for a project. I spent weeks just thinking about it, planning every detail in my head. But guess what? It never went anywhere because I was too caught up in trying to make it perfect. I was stuck in analysis paralysis. The moment I started to take action, even small actions like jotting down some notes or discussing the idea with a friend, things started to shift. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. The Stoics believed that we control our actions, but not always the outcome. By focusing on what we can do right now, we reduce the overwhelm of trying to control every possible future scenario, which, let's be honest, is impossible. Each action you take teaches you something new, brings new insights, and yes, sometimes new challenges, but always movement. Every step you take is a learning opportunity, a chance to adapt and adjust. And here's something else to think about. Action feeds confidence. Each time you act, you prove to yourself that you can move beyond your fears. You build momentum and suddenly what seemed impossible starts to look pretty doable. Remember, in Stoicism, there's a lot of talk about living according to nature, and it's only natural to learn and grow from what we do, not just from what we think. So, what small action can you take today? Maybe it's making that phone call you've been putting off, sending an email, or just organizing your workspace. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. Tiny steps are still steps. The key is to keep moving. Don't let your thoughts hold you back. As Seneca said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." By embracing the Stoic way of valuing action over analysis, we empower ourselves to live more fully, more bravely, and with a clear sense of direction. So, let's put those plans into action. Let's make things happen. You'll be amazed at how much more you can achieve when you shift from overthinking to doing. Lesson 2. You're not that special. This idea comes straight from the Stoic teachings, particularly from Marcus Aurelius, who often reminded himself in his meditations to keep his ego in check. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This was a reminder to focus on what truly matters without getting caught up in one's own self-importance. So why is realizing you're not that special actually a good thing? Well, it's about understanding that the world doesn't revolve around our actions as much as we think it might. Most people are far too busy dealing with their own lives to be overly concerned with what we're doing. This is a game changer when you grasp it fully, because it means you can stop overthinking how you're perceived. Have you ever hesitated to post something online because you were worried about what people would think? Or maybe you've been afraid to start a new project or go after a job because you're scared of criticism or failure, believing everyone will notice and judge you. Here's a Stoic wake-up call. Most people won't even remember it a few days later. Everyone else is too busy navigating their own challenges. This doesn't mean your actions don't matter or that you shouldn't strive to do your best, but it does mean that you can perhaps breathe a little easier, knowing that one mistake is not going to be the focal point of everyone's attention. This concept helps to strip away the facade that everyone is watching and judging our every move, which is a common trap that feeds overthinking and anxiety. It's freeing, isn't it, to realize that you can go about your life, make your choices, and even slip up now and then, and the world won't come crashing down. You get to experiment, to learn, to live without the heavy weight of perceived constant scrutiny. And here's where Stoicism helps us really nail this concept down. It teaches us humility and the importance of focusing on self-improvement for its own sake, not for applause or fear of criticism. Marcus Aurelius believed in leading a life of virtue and being true to oneself, not living for external validation. So the next time you find yourself overthinking about how others might perceive your actions, remember this lesson. You're not that special in the eyes of the world, and that's a good thing. It means you are free to live your life more fully, authentically, and without undue concern over every little judgment. This isn't about diminishing your value, it's about realizing that the spotlight isn't always on you, and that's a relief. Use that space to focus on what truly matters to you, engage with your real passions, and let the trivial worries go. Lesson 3. Comparison is the thief of joy. When we constantly compare ourselves to others, whether it's their successes, their looks, or even their social media posts, we set ourselves up for unhappiness. It's like we're measuring our life's worth against a yardstick that keeps changing depending on whom we're comparing ourselves to at the moment. The Stoics were big on focusing on what's within our control, and other people's lives are definitely not within our control. Epictetus famously said, "Focus on what you can control and let go of what you cannot." When you spend your energy focusing on others, you're wasting that precious resource, your focus, on what you cannot change or influence. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're having a really good day. You're feeling proud of what you've accomplished, whether it's big or small. Then you hop on Instagram or Facebook, and suddenly you see someone else's highlight reel. Vacations, perfect homes, achievements. Suddenly, your own victories don't feel quite so significant anymore. That's the trap of comparison. What the Stoics teach us is to anchor our self-worth in our own values and progress, not in comparison to others. This isn't just about feeling better, it's about a fundamental shift in how we view success and happiness. It's about internal validation rather than external. When you live by this principle, you shift your perspective from competition to personal growth. It's liberating, really. When you stop comparing, you start appreciating your own journey with all its ups and downs. You begin to see your life as a unique path, not a race against someone else's milestones. This mindset allows you to celebrate your own successes without the shadow of someone else's achievements dimming your light. If you can train yourself to shift your thinking from comparison to self-reflection, you'll find that joy comes more naturally. You'll start to recognize the blessings in your own life without feeling the need to stack them up against anyone else's. So the next time you catch yourself falling into the comparison trap, take a step back. Remind yourself that your value is not defined by how you stack up against others, but by how you live according to your own principles and efforts. Redirect that energy back to your personal goals and growth. Trust me, this is a game changer in conquering overthinking and truly finding happiness in your own unique journey. Lesson 4. Perfection is a myth. The pursuit of perfection can be a relentless drive that ironically leads not to more success, but to increased dissatisfaction and paralysis. When we set unattainable standards for ourselves, every small mistake or setback can feel like a catastrophic failure. It's a recipe for constant stress and chronic overthinking. The Stoic philosophers really understood this. They taught us that striving for perfection, in the traditional sense, flawless and complete, is not only unrealistic, but also unnecessary. Seneca put it this way: "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He was getting at the idea that our pursuit of an imagined state of perfection causes us much more distress than the actual imperfections of life. Think about that for a second. How often have you agonized over getting something just right, only to realize that the effort was causing you more anxiety than the results warranted? Stoicism invites us to embrace imperfection, not as a flaw, but as a fundamental part of being human. By accepting that we are inherently imperfect, we can free ourselves from the impossible expectations that bind us and cause endless cycles of overthinking. This doesn't mean we shouldn't try to improve or grow, quite the opposite. It means that we recognize improvement as a process, one that is ongoing and filled with lessons learned from mistakes, and mistakes are expected. Imagine if you could approach a new project or a new skill with the mindset that mistakes are not only expected, but are actually valuable. How much more willing would you be to start something new, to innovate, and to take risks? This is the freedom that rejecting the myth of perfection offers. The Stoic approach teaches us that every imperfection is an opportunity to learn. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He's telling us that the obstacles, the imperfections, and the setbacks are not just hurdles to overcome. They are integral parts of the journey that push us to grow and improve. So as we move forward, let's try to shift our focus. Instead of aiming for perfection, let's aim for progress. Let's celebrate the small victories and the big ones, knowing that each step forward is valuable. Let's learn to see the beauty in the imperfect, because it is the imperfections that make our experiences rich and our lives genuinely authentic. Let go of the myth of perfection, and you'll find that you're not just reducing overthinking, you're also opening up a whole new world of possibilities where growth is a joy, not a burden. Lesson 5. Your emotions are not your reality. It's easy to get swept away by our feelings, but it's crucial to remember that our emotional responses don't always represent the truth of our situations. Stoicism teaches us that emotions, while a natural part of our human experience, should not dictate our decisions or our perceptions of reality. This idea is rooted deeply in the teachings of the Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, who advised us to take a step back and examine our impressions, asking ourselves if they are based on fact or if we are letting our emotions color our judgment. He famously said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about the last time you felt overwhelmed by emotion. Maybe you were anxious about a big meeting or upset over a disagreement with a friend. In those moments, our emotions can feel all-consuming, as if they define our entire reality. But here's the thing, emotions are transient, they come and go, and they can deceive us into overestimating the significance of what we're feeling in the moment. This Stoic lesson isn't about suppressing your emotions. Rather, it's about not letting them control you. It's about achieving a level of detachment where you can acknowledge your feelings without letting them cloud your judgment. This is what the Stoics mean when they talk about living a life of virtue. It's about responding to life's challenges with reason rather than being led by emotion. Let's say you're feeling really down because you didn't get a job you interviewed for. The initial emotional response might be to think you're not good enough or that you'll never find a job you love. But if you take a moment to step back and apply reason, you might see that this rejection could be an opportunity to explore other options or areas for improvement in your interviewing skills. By not letting your initial emotions dictate your reality, you open yourself up to more constructive and proactive paths. Practicing this can start simply. The next time you find yourself getting emotionally charged, take a breath and ask yourself, is my reaction based on reality or my interpretation of the situation? Is there another way to view this? Often just taking this moment can prevent you from spiraling into negative overthinking and help you approach situations more rationally. Epictetus taught that it's not the events themselves that disturb us, but our view of them. So by changing our perspective, by questioning the validity of our emotional responses, we can change how we experience life's ups and downs. This doesn't mean ignoring our feelings, it means managing them in a way that allows us to respond with wisdom and clarity. Lesson 6. Detach from outcomes. Stoicism teaches us that much of our distress comes from clinging too tightly to outcomes we can't control. Remember, the Stoics are all about distinguishing between what's in our control and what's outside it. And while we can influence outcomes, we can't control them entirely. Epictetus famously said, "Some things are in our control and others not." This simple truth is at the heart of Stoic calm and resilience. Think about when you work on a project or strive towards a personal goal. If you're solely focused on the outcome, every minor setback can feel like a major disaster. This fixation can lead to constant stress and disappointment because, frankly, outcomes are often influenced by variables we just can't predict or manage. But what if you shifted your focus from the outcome to the effort itself? Imagine the freedom and satisfaction in knowing that your self-worth isn't tied up in the results of your actions, but in the quality and intention behind them. This is what it means to detach from outcomes. It's not about not caring about results, it's about not being defined by them. Let's apply this to something relatable, like starting a new diet or fitness routine. If you fixate solely on losing a specific amount of weight within a certain time, you're setting yourself up for frustration and potential failure. Instead, if you focus on developing healthier eating habits or enjoying your workouts, you shift the focus to the process. You start to appreciate the daily improvements in your energy and mood. These are direct results of your actions, things you can control. The weight loss then becomes a beneficial side effect, not the sole measure of your success. This Stoic approach helps build resilience. When outcomes aren't the end-all be-all, setbacks become less terrifying. They're just part of the journey, opportunities to learn and adjust. This mindset fosters a more sustainable motivation because it's rooted in what you're doing right now, not in a distant, possibly elusive goal. Moreover, detaching from outcomes allows you to be more present and engaged in the task at hand. It enhances your performance because you're focused on the action, not distracted by anxiety over the results. This can lead to better outcomes, ironically enough, because you're operating from a place of engagement and authenticity, not fear and attachment. So as we go forward, let's try to put this into practice. Focus on your actions, on living according to your values, and doing your best in each moment. Trust that by doing this, the outcomes will take care of themselves, one way or another. Remember, as Marcus Aurelius said, just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. It's a freeing way to live, and it drastically cuts down on overthinking and unnecessary stress. Lesson 7. The present moment is all you have. It's easy to get caught up in regrets about the past or worries about the future, but Stoicism teaches us that the only real time we have control over is the present. Marcus Aurelius, a staunch advocate of this idea, wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." What he's telling us is simple, yet deeply significant. The past is untouchable, and the future is uncertain, but the present is where we live our lives. Think about how often your thoughts wander to what's been or what's coming. It could be dwelling on an argument you had last week or fretting over an upcoming deadline. These thoughts aren't just distracting, they're draining. They pull you out of the here and now, reducing your ability to focus on what you're actually doing and diminishing your effectiveness and happiness. Embracing the present moment means actively focusing on what's happening right now. This doesn't imply that you ignore the lessons of the past or fail to plan for the future. Rather, it means that you don't let those considerations overpower your current experience. It's about balancing awareness, not letting one aspect overwhelmingly distract from another. Let's say you're spending time with a friend, but you're mentally rehearsing a work presentation for tomorrow. By not being fully present, you miss out on the richness of the interaction. And ironically, you're also not doing much good for your preparation, as scattered focus rarely leads to quality outcomes. But if you consciously choose to engage fully with your friend, you enrich that experience, and often you'll find that your mind is clearer and more prepared when it's time to focus on your work. Practicing presence can start with something as simple as mindful breathing. Whenever you find your mind darting back to the past or jumping ahead to the future, take a few deep breaths and look around. Notice the sights, the sounds, the smells, feel the air on your skin, the ground beneath your feet. This isn't just about grounding yourself physically, it's about reminding yourself that life happens in the now. The Stoic practice of mindfulness and presence also encourages gratitude. When you're fully present, you're more likely to notice the small joys and victories that you might otherwise overlook. This can lead to a deeper appreciation for your life as it is, not as you think it should be or fear it might become. So as we move forward, let's try to bring our attention back to the present whenever we find it straying. Remember, every moment spent worrying about the past or the future is a moment lost. The present is your reality, the stage on which you can act. Marcus Aurelius urged us to live with vigor and purpose in the present, not passively, but as active participants, shaping our lives moment by moment. By embracing the present, we embrace life itself. We can handle stress better, enjoy our experiences more fully, and live with the sense of peace that comes from knowing we're truly living, not just existing. This is a powerful Stoic lesson that not only reduces overthinking, but enriches our entire existence. Let's make the most of now, for it's all we truly have. And that wraps up our exploration of how Stoic wisdom can transform the way we think and live. Remember, each moment you choose to be present and intentional is a step toward a more fulfilling life. Thank you for joining me here at Live Virtue Stoic. If you found value in what we discussed today, please check out one of the suggested videos on the screen to continue your journey into Stoicism. Your presence and engagement mean the world to us. Until next time, live fully and think deeply.